Snyder. All right, we got part 2 with the Russo Brothers right here, and hopefully you guys watched it. Watch both parts of Pizza Film School. So we got part 2 right here, and I watched it earlier today, which was great. Great watch because, just a great conversation. Love talking about filmmaking, and I, brought some little bullet points right here when it comes to the interview that I wanted to go over and hear what he had to say.
And that's in some ways why, for me, the director's cut concept was a thing that at least I could be like, well, at least I know it will exist, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Like Batman vs. Superman, I think is a perfect example of there was no plan for a director's cut except for home video in the day. They would always come to me because those director's cuts, even like on Batman vs. Superman, it's some outrageous amount of the total after theatrical release generated by the director's cut is like 80% of all the revenue came from the director's cut.
80%.
And which is the thing that if you look at the spreadsheet for the movie as a piece of business at the beginning of the endeavor, that line doesn't exist, right? And then in the end represents this massive amount of commerce for the film. So I don't know. So in that way, and Justice League, frankly, wouldn't exist if I hadn't really had that as the movie that I really wanted to make, And I'm not saying that I'm trying to pull a fast one or, it's a clever ruse.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's just a little bit.
Right.
But I always feel like, sometimes I'm up against commerce, and
there's a lot of strategy
natural.
as a filmmaker involved in getting your movie to a theater. There's a lot of ownership that needs to happen along the way from a lot of people who wrote you a lot of big checks.
100%.
And so there's a management on the scale of movies that we do that extends beyond the work you're doing on the movie. And it was something we found with Marvel. We got better and better with that as it went on.
Interesting.
Better and better at interacting with marketing in a certain way, or thinking through, or looking at what markets we needed in order for this movie to be successful. Who's going to India?
Yeah.
To talk to the Indian market. It's emerging now, and we're getting clips back from Infinity War showing how crazy audiences are going in theaters. We didn't go there for Infinity. We better go there for Endgame and interact with these fans that are emerging and want to feel like they're part of the big experience that's going on.
Talking about the director's cut, he's always talking about he knows that he had that option, but when they were doing BVS, it wasn't on the table. That's what's crazy. It's crazy that it wasn't on the table, and then all of a sudden it does. And then all of a sudden it's like, when people talk about BVS, I always hate it. It's like, well, you mean the ultimate cut, right? I'm like, yes, okay? It's always the ultimate cut. It will never be the theatrical version, okay? And that's what I always get frustrated with people when they say, you better be watching the ultimate. Of course! That's always the 3-hour cut. It's always going to be the cut that you watch. Always.
Filmmaking realm.
Filmmaking.
Although I do think that my
Dark.
natural tendencies are kind of dark. I just I don't,
you have a darker vision of mythology. You're attracted to Icarus. You're attracted to
100%.
What is the flaw in this mythology that makes it more complex?
Yeah, and deconstruction is a thing that I'm a big fan of because I think that it goes in a circle.
Deconstruction, like he did the characters.
Figure out why it works. You know what I mean? It's just a thing that I've always been into. And so in that way, in a weird way, I've kind of battled my PG-13 roots, where I live, because what I ask for from the movies is budgets and scale.
It's got to justify.
It's got to, so it's got to,
so it's hard to do that,
And in a lot of ways, that's why I love Netflix, because they, I kind of feel like with Netflix, the barrier is softer, what 13-year-old didn't watch Army of the Dead, probably zero.
It is softer because they can take their phone and go in the bathroom and,
it's 100%.
right, and hit play.
Talking about how, Netflix has been, how nice it's been with him. But yeah, I just like the fact that he talked about how he likes to take a darker approach when it comes to these stories. Obviously, we know that, and we love that. And the deconstruction of characters, which is always great as well. So I just liked how we mentioned that. And it's because obviously the haters out there hated the fact that, it was like that. So
And I was like, what? You know, it's like, it's
It's got
funny.
like every great British actor of that
Yeah.
generation.
oh, he's talking about
really-
Excalibur.
I mean, I get the chills just thinking about when Lancelot shows up at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
one of
like,
Zach's favorite movies.
Well, thank you again,
No,
man.
thank you.
This has
That's
been a
amazing.
blast. And
It's the end.
all of you out there, thank you for tuning in and listening. Manja Bene. We'll see you next time on Pizza.
So there you go. That was the end right there. But yeah, good conversation, great conversation. He also brought up too one thing, and I think Steven actually mentioned this on Twitter because he talked about it. He talked about it on the Vodka stream, was the fact that talking about the volume. Zach talks about, they talk about technology and the evolution of technology when it comes to filmmaking. He talked about the volume and utilizing that and how they were trying to utilize that for Rebel Moon when it came to like a battle scene in a village. And he explained how they try to make it work, but just the scope of everything and the amount of extras, because he's going to have this big war sequence that's going to be happening in Rebel Moon, that it just, things couldn't work. Because it's difficult because you're going up, you're in a essentially like a dome that is very limited, and you got to like constantly. And I think Steven brought up like a lot of things when it came to Loki, when it came to Obi-Wan. You could kind of get that sense of that small area of the volume that it's still going to be an expanding technology and it's still going to be evolving, but sometimes when you have these you have a big scope, it's just not quite there yet. But of course they talk about the real I forgot what that virtual Unreal machine, whatever the heck they call it. They talk about that a little bit too, and just the evolution of that. But I do like the fact that these guys, they're veteran filmmakers and they're talking about the new technology, and obviously newer filmmakers are going to be utilizing that technology. But yeah, it's just a really good interview. Like I said, make sure you guys watch part 1 and part 2. Really good stuff. And I thank the Russo brothers for doing that.